Yes.
Back here with Coach Mangini. Let's take a look at the NFC title game on Sunday. Saints and Rams. Rams had a dominant 1-2 punch in their ground game Saturday against the Cowboys. Both C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley had over 100 yards as the Rams set a franchise postseason record with 273 rushing yards. Nick, you had Saints defensive end Cam Jordan on your radio show yesterday. You asked him the key to shutting down this Rams offense.
Make them one-dimensional. I mean, for most teams, it's taking that pass away, but you watch how Todd Gurley runs, and now you watch how effective CJ has been the last couple of games. We have to try and tighten down on the run game, make them one-dimensional.
All right, Coach, what do you think? What do you think the game plan should be for the Saints defense, and what should they expect, rather, from the Rams on Sunday?
I think the Rams need to continue along the lines that they had last week and run the ball and run the ball even if it's not as effective as they hope it is early. You look at the last game, Saints put up, what, 35 points in the first half? So by running the ball, you're going to shorten the game. That's a positive. By running the ball, you're going to slow down their pass rushers. It's going to open up the play action. They were effective running the ball last game. To me, that's the starting point, but you've got to have the patience to stick with it. And it's hard against New Orleans because if they do get up 7 or 14, you think that you're chasing. And there's that tendency to, okay, we've got to get points quickly. We've got to change our approach. And to me, that's where teams get in trouble against New Orleans because it opens up for the pressure packages. It does turn them into one-dimensional teams. I'd say the other thing is protecting the football. You saw the play at the end of the first half where they throw an interception. I think it was about 1 minute and 30 seconds left. The Saints
You're talking about in their first matchup.
In their first game.
Rams throw a pick late.
That mistake was huge, and it's a 10-point game. It's just so hard to overcome errors like that where you're pressing again to make a play and suddenly you put yourself in a horrible situation.
And I know the Saints all year long have been a great rush defense. They finished the year #2 against the run, and that's in total yards, but also top 5 in yards per rush allowed. So it's not just that teams were abandoning the run. It's one of the reasons teams were abandoning the run is because they couldn't successfully run. But a big part of that was Sheldon Rankins.
Yep.
And he's out. Sheldon Rankins is the D tackle. I think their best run defender on that team. That is the substantial injury they suffered in the last round of the playoffs. Cam Jordan, who was talking there, is an excellent pass rusher and I think a good run defender, but he's not, you don't look at him as his strength is one of those, he's not a 3-4 D end who's taking, no, he's a 4-3 defensive end pass rusher. And so if you are going to have success on the Saints running the football, this would be the week. And you've got not only Todd Gurley, but now CJ, who has played 3 games for the Saints, 422 yards in those 3 games. He's been over $120 in week 16, week 17, and in the playoff game. So you have a legitimate dual threat run option, and it is a pounding run option with that I would imagine would take a toll on a defense just stylistically with the body that C.J. Anderson has and with the power and speed Todd Gurley has.
Yeah, one thing, too, with the Rams, that they have coaches always talked about continuity in organization, continuity in the coaching staff. But they have tremendous continuity, one-of-a-kind continuity on the offensive line. This year, only offensive line coaches started all 16 games. Last year, only offensive line that started every game.
That's
they have
crazy.
all their senior players on the left-hand side. Whitworth and Scaffold, the left guard. They got a tremendous experience there. So them going against the Saints, it should be an advantage. When you go into a dome, I played most of my career in a dome, and one of the things that we knew how teams would try to attack us. And one thing early is it's harder to be able to throw the ball in a dome on 3rd down. So if you want to throw it, you better throw it on 1st or 2nd down. So what I would do, based on all that running and CJ and Todd Gurley last week, I would come out, play action passing the Saints, and I'm throwing the ball at the weakest part of their secondary. And when you play action, it's the best pass protection. So you can pretty much sustain a maximum rush from the defense. It's the best pass protection, and that quarterback, I want him to get comfortable in the dome. What happened in the earlier season meeting, the Saints got off to an amazing red-hot start, and the Rams were chasing. They were in a panic mode. So for me, I understand running the ball. I understand eating up the clock. I understand time of possession. But Play action pass is the best way to make a dent in the enthusiasm in that building and get your quarterback, get him feeling good early.
And what's great for the Rams is they've experienced the noise in there. That
does help.
They've gotten over that that first time, and they have a much better understanding of how they need to communicate, how they need to make adjustments, how they need to audible now as opposed to the first time they went in there. And the continuity in the offensive line is huge, and you can put so much of your trust into that group because they've worked together so well and for so long. And I do agree with Chris, too. It's not like their secondary has been impressive. They've struggled throughout the course of the year. So if you can attack them effectively, which most people have been able to, it's a great approach.
And this is where the offense in the league that's gotten the most headlines is the high-scoring offense, the Chiefs. But if not for the Chiefs, the Rams would be the #1 offense across the board. I mean, they're second in points, second in yards, third in rushing, fifth in passing. And when everything they're second in, it's to Kansas City. This Rams offense, I know that in the playoff game it was all running. Jared Goff was basically a caretaker. They have been a prolific offense in every way, shape, and form. And a huge part of that has been the play-action pass game because people are afraid of Todd Gurley. They ran play-action on more than 50% of their pass attempts in the first playoff game. I think that's a huge part of this weekend.
And people say, oh, he's a wide receiver. He wants to throw the ball. I really believe that's the best way to attack. And also, you have to realize when you're playing in that type of environment, we'll talk about the weather in Kansas City, but I don't think people are going to mention playing in a dome. When you play an NFC championship, those domes get hotter. How do I know that? I've played in a couple of them, and I played in a dome throughout my career. So watch the fatigue factor. You talked about Sheldon Rankin. What about that rotation of the Saints? They're down one of their primary defensive linemen. So that rotation, I'm throwing the ball early, but I'm pounding it later on. It's going to be hot in that building. I was in the Superdome when the Saints played the Vikings the last time they matched up in the NFC championship. The humidity in that game, Brett Favre game, where he threw the interception, Patty Mahomes style going across of his body. So there can be a fatigue factor playing in a dome. Late in the season, you're down in numbers. We know Sheldon Rankin is going to be missed. So how do they, what does Dennis Allen do, the defensive coordinator, to put that extra guy into the rotation? And the impact, I believe, fatigue-wise, can be to the Rams' advantage if they come out and hit some of those passes early.
And I've got a fatigue factor.
It was interesting, too, to hear some of the defensive linemen talk about Sheldon Rankin's effect from a communication standpoint, how he helped those guys in terms of shifting the defensive line back and forth and eating up the offensive linemen, taking it off the linebackers. That part's going to be big as well.
Quickly, something you said earlier, it's hard to throw on third down in a dome. Why is that?
It's so loud. That's when the crowd is going to be the loudest.
Even if a team has been there already and knows.
The fans are going to be loud throughout, but they are going to be
This will be the loudest the Saints fans have ever been. What time the game start?
What? 3:30.
My man Brumley said they'll be liquored up, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Rob, Coach, we'll see you a little bit later on the show. Got to take a break. Coming up is Tyreek Hill. Too much for the Patriots to handle.
Oh, yeah, he's weird.